And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this pregame kickoff here of the Men of Steel podcast here on Showblitz, as we'll be breaking down the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Philadelphia Eagles today at Lincoln Financial Field. New kickoff scheduled to be happening here today, as the Steelers will look to get off the schneid in a way for right now, as they've been having a brutal season. Once again, find themselves on the bottom of the AFC North at this moment in time, at 2-5 right now, trying to pick up their third victory of the season right now. This could be a very significant week right here. For a lot of talks throughout the week as we got a little bit closer, especially considering last week's loss to the Miami Dolphins right there, where the Steelers had a chance to go to 3-4. In that game. And just a recap right there briefly, I mean, the thing that really done them in, I felt like in that game right there, had to be the penalties late in that game right there. I mean, the Steelers, who started off the first half allowing one penalty for 10 yards, basically. And that right there in that first half, that was just an illegal block. But then the penalties started coming up. In the second half, he had at least a holding call for 10 yards, pass interference, ineligible man downfield for 5, and then a legal shift for 5 yards. Also, the PI was for 10 yards. So those 4 penalties right there done then, those 4 additional penalties, which brought up 5 total for this game. In this game. But I tell you what, for right now, that was a huge blow. And here we are right now in that game. And also, too, just to point out real quickly, in that game, I mean, versus the Dolphins right there, I thought the Steelers did a good job. I mean, in that game, when you look at it, I mean, for the most part, I mean, only at the half, at that point, I mean, just to find themselves in that contest right there, and where, I mean, they started off decent, and in that contest right there, I mean, when you really look at it, I mean, for the most part, I mean, just to be down by 16-10 at the half, which was pretty decent. I mean, considering how earlier on in that game, the Miami Dolphins, they were up as early as 13 zip, with about 2:27 remaining in the first quarter. And that's why it's like it was a huge blow, I think, for right now, but they still got a chance to rectify things for the most part. Not going to be easy, as Kenny Pickett will be looking to pick up his second win as a starter for this season. Remember, he technically earned the win earlier a few weeks back against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 2 weeks ago. He didn't finish the game, but since he was the starting quarterback, he did get credited with the win, despite Mitch Trubisky coming in there to finish the job in that regard. So you looked at it right there, the Steelers right now trying to do something that no Steeler team has done. I mean, basically, as we look at it for right now, the Steelers, for the most part, going up against the Philadelphia Eagles, this has been a house of horrors as of late, playing in Philadelphia. And these two teams, interestingly enough, seem to be trading home field victories. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles have been able to snatch up pretty surprising games on the road, but they'll be looking to be the first team today since 1965, October 24th, 1965. That was pre-Super Bowl era. Steelers did win that game 20-14. It was then, at the time, Franklin Field where they won that game. The Steelers in that contest would have a +3 turnover ratio in that game. And it was definitely a surprising win, to say the least, right there. But here we go. Steelers, like I said, ever since gained that win versus Eagles in that time, it was definitely been a house of horrors, as mentioned right there. And since 1965, They've been 0-9 since that last victory in Philadelphia. Let's see if today will be any different. We'll see. And just right now, everything's on the line right now. I mean, yeah, like talks throughout the week as possibly as far as like Matt Canada, if his offense continues to be lousy today, will Mike Tomlin pull the plug on him and switch things up? Will we see a little bit Mike Sullivan here? What's going to happen? Also, what are the futures of guys like right now? A guy who continues to here be in the trade rumor mill, Chase Claypool, right now. I just feel like for right now, it's a lot of stuff to be on the table. Nobody's job is safe. Even Cam Hayward, there's an NFC team that inquired, according to Andrew Filipponi of 937 The Fan. Would you, Steeler Nation, dare entertaining high trade value in return right now? Or do you keep this talent around? I mean, you don't want to like necessarily shoot Kenny Pick in the foot with flesh of weapons to work with. Do you keep around, still believe this team has a chance to compete next year? Obviously, this year, it doesn't seem like it's be more like a playoff or a championship. I mean, a championship. I mean, more likely, it could still be a playoff run. I just feel like right now it's been a little bit toxic as of late. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm all for being in the playoffs. But at the same time, if you keep wasting these playoff appearances and not making any adjustments just to be one and done, it's about being in the playoffs, quite frankly. This is not Steeler football right there. And just giving up 40 points a game, missed tackles galore, lack of sacks. Let's say you. Once again, you guys can follow me on social media. You can follow me on Twitter at MetaSteelCGR and on Instagram at MetaSteel Nation right here. So let's go ahead and get right into it right now. Mike Tomlin, earlier in the week on the pick interceptions for last week's game, he was quoted in saying, he's playing and he's playing to win. When asked about making offensive changes, firing Matt Canada, I'm not there. All the jet, and also too, he was asked about all the jet sweeps that was utilized in the Steelers' office. He said at this point they're not innovative anymore. And you know what? I have to kind of agree with him right now, because when you look at the season for all the things that they're trying to do right now, I mean, this team has got to be way much better than what they are. I mean, just yards per attempt is just crucial here, to say the least. I mean, when you look at where they're at right now, I mean, for this season, I mean, yards per attempt for right now, going into this, I mean, adjusted yards, 5.5 yards. Okay, that's not good. I mean, Kenny Pickett, I mean, so far, for the most part, this season, when you look at it, and when you really lock down him, like what he's doing this year, he's barely averaging about like over 6 yards per passing attempt. Usually you want to try to keep that at least in 7 or above when you want to be a true quarterback. Kenny Pickett has shown a lot of poise so far. Love the mobility. I still think he's got a great future ahead of him. I mean, the only thing is right now, at some point, when he's going to start like making his reasonable properly, making some of these tight throws, just lowering down on their receptions right now. But at the same time, he needs a lot of help from his running game. The running game has to do way much better, and more particularly Najee Harris. I know he's dealing with the Lisfranc injury, but to be honest with you, it is definitely beyond a disappointment for this season. When you look at a guy like Najee Harris, who had a hell of a lot more expectations for this year. I mean, of course, he's going to lead his team in scrimmage, but I mean, for this year, he's got 329 yards, averaging 3.3 yards per attempt, versus last year when he finished off the year with 1,667 scrimmage yards and 1,200 rushing yards with 7 touchdowns. He right now has got to be the guy that needs to put this team on his back to the degree to kind of help out Kenny Pickett. I mean, while he continues to grow and mature and get to that next level stage. And asked Chase Claypool, if this offense is close to pulling it together. He says, no, I feel like I've heard that every week, how close are we? I think it's too late in the season to be close to anything. I think we're close. We have to get there next week. He definitely said one of the most notable comments of the week that kicking off following the Dolphins' loss. He feels like they're missing splash on offense. It's a little harder to score when it's like a 10 to 15 play drive because everything has to go right. If you're nickel and diming, you get 5 yards per pass, which is fine for time of possession, but sometimes we just want to score now. He also said we need more goal balls. Like, damn, not enough goal balls. We got playmakers. I haven't had a goal ball all year. George needs more. Tay needs more. I'm not saying that's on the play calling. I'm just saying we need to find a way to scheme it up. Tomlin, I'm picking trying to lead comebacks for the Steelers. He's a fish in water. It's a natural act for him. He's a competitor. And there we have it. I mean, for the most part, Steelers right now, as we go into this game, it's definitely going to be a real interesting matchup right now. Philadelphia Eagles, I mean, for the most part, you got to give them this right now. They're playing definitely with house money this year. As they are 6-0, they are the only unbeaten team right now that's remaining in the National Football League right now, as they're looking to continue their dominance. And one of the biggest things too, when you look at this matchup right now for the Steelers going in here versus the Eagles right here, is the Eagles plus 12 turnover ratio in this game, which is top notch in the NFL. That ranks first in the league right now, where they took the ball away for a total of 14 times, which includes 9 interceptions, which is ranked second, and then 5 fumble recoveries. Now, I will say this, for the Steelers, for everything that's been kind of going a little bit wrong and their defense taking big steps back, of course, without the injury. I mean, even with the injury of TJ Watt, who definitely felt like he was a lot more better placed this week, and was saying leading into this game that, for this moment, that he was designated to return from IR last week, which opened a 21-day window for him to make it back to the active roster. He was not activated on Saturday, but he definitely stayed on Thursday. I feel very encouraged about where I'm at now. And it's just being Steelers for right now, for the most part, I mean, give them a little bit of credit. Now, they're -2 in turnover ratio. That number has been dipping slowly after that opening performance against the Bengals, where they had +5 turnover ratio. They're -2 in the league right now, but to their credit, defense, their interceptions right now, total takeaways in the league, they're ranked 11th, which is not bad, with 10 total takeaways, 8 interceptions, which ranks 6th, 2 fumble recoveries. So they're ball hawking the ball. The only problem is right now, it's not doing enough to make some game-changing plays. You feel like certain guys are getting double-teamed a little bit more in this contest, and we'll see how this continues to look. But for right now, I think you got to be encouraged defensively. But, man, this is going to be a game where everyone has to play real disciplined football. There's a lot more stuff that's going to be rolling on this game today. And definitely a lot of futures I think could be at stake more likely at the end of this game. Steelers never want to admit that they're a rebuilding team, as obviously noted. But at some point, too, I mean, where do you start drawing the line in the sand here? I keep going back to this. I can't keep saying this like a broken record. Here's the thing, too. I mean, Mike Tomlin's teams, when he had 8-8 seasons back in 2012, 13, and 2019, the only times he had 8-8 seasons. Let's think about this for a second. Let this sink in. Those first 2 8-8 seasons, about a decade ago, the reason why they were able to pull it off, they had a highly talented offense in the Killer Bees right there. Their offense was definitely getting ready to touch the ceiling as far as how much they could go. I mean, you had Todd Haley right there, who's definitely on Ben Roethlisberger, displaying him, trying to stay in the pocket and be a more better pocket passer in the West Coast offense and to take lesser hits, which was needed for him at that time. Defensively, they're going for a big transition right there, too. I mean, they lost a lot of guys, like where was like a Casey Hampton or James Ferrier, or Ryan Clark. I mean, you had much guys. Eventually, Ike Taylor, Brett Kiesel, too. I mean, who tore his triceps, I think, back in 2014. But that's the thing right there. At least they had an offense to fall back on where they were able to score and rack up yards right there. And then 2019, too, you had defense right there, which was top 3 in total takeaways right there. I mean, especially with Minka Fitzpatrick being the game-changing trade earlier in the season just to bring him over. Man, I mean, that's the difference right there. This year, they do not have enough of that. I mean, I feel at this point in time, when you have guys like a TJ Watt who signed for the 2025 season, I mean, when you look at like his cap number for the following seasons, I mean, well deservedly so. A fully guaranteed contract, which was signed last year. He is set to be making in the next 3 years, he's making over 24 million this year, but then he'll be making 29 and over $30 million for like the next 3 years, basically. So there you have it. A big sizable cap number. I would have to say for right now, I mean, if there's any asset right now, if the Steelers do hear any more trade wars, not this season, but like in a year or two, I would probably like to think right now that maybe TJ Watt, is he like the only guy you would have to say that's untouchable for the moment? I mean, the only guys I would probably entertain is maybe like Chase Claypool, Cam Hayward, not willing to go there just yet, but you have to listen depending on the offer right now. And that's the thing. It's just, they cannot have another season where they just go 9-8. They're not going any further, move up in the draft. I mean, I still want to be a playoff team, but getting in the playoffs and getting slapped around and taken out right away, you're wasting playoff appearances. All you're just doing is just adding to the success of the Steelers organization that they're consistent playoff competitors. I still want that, but you got to find a way to make better adjustments if you're going to be a serious Super Bowl team. And clearly, they got a long ways to go right now. Once again, we're streaming live here for this morning of the kickoff edition here of the Steelers versus Eagles of the Steel podcast here right now. Steelers trying to get their first win in Philadelphia, the first time in 57 years. October 24th, 1965. We'll see right now, and we'll find out if the Steelers are going to be a trick or a treat at the end of today's game here. Also, let's go a little bit on the updates right here with the injuries right now heading into this game. Steelers going into this game, of course, TJ Watt, who's doing everything he could to be elevated to play for this game. He's not to be. Adam Schefter was saying that he had a 21-day window start from last week to make that roster, but he was not activated yesterday. So if he would have been activated yesterday, he would have been able to play today. He was not. So we'll have to more than likely wait until their bye week, which their next game, the Steelers, will be against New Orleans Saints on November 13th at noon at Acrisure Stadium. So they will be without quarterback Levi Wallace, who dealt with a shoulder injury this past week. Defense tackle Larry Ogunjobi, knee. Chris Boswell, groin, who actually popped up on the injury report on a Friday. He didn't pop up until then, who did not practice. So He was ruled out yesterday after Saturday's walkthrough, and the team decided to elevate free agent kicker Nick Skiba in time before the 4 p.m. Eastern deadline to play. Uh, Skiba is an undrafted free agent out of Wake Forest. Spent training camp with the Steelers before being released in late August. Skiba connected on 80 of 89 field goals in college, and in his senior year, hit 23 of 25 attempts. He also holds the NCAA record for consecutive field goals made with 34. They never missed a PA attempt in college. So we'll see how this goes right here for the most part. And let's look at this a little bit further right now. Trade deadline rumors. Once again, right now, one name that continues to percolate is Chase Claypool, according to Mike Florio, a Pro Football Tip. Claypool will be going into his final season of his rookie deal next season, should he not be traded to another team. He also says that they may not be willing to give Claypool the kind of deal that he wants if they don't decide to not pay him market value or anywhere close to it. Then what's the rush of trading him if they're offered 2023 draft picks when they could wait and get a similar deal in March, which makes a lot of sense for the most part. The question may be whether they think they're getting more now or later for Claypool. And they can set up an auction in the short term among teams that believe they're a receiver away from being a Super Bowl player. Maybe the Steelers will end up with more now than later. I mean, for 7 games in 2022, Claypool has been targeted 44 times with 28 catches for 266 yards and 1 touchdown. His best year came in 2020 with 62 catches for 873 yards and 11 touchdowns. And Chase Claypool, I definitely do tend to think right now he may be the guy that could do without. But at the same time, too, do you risk giving up a weapon for a guy like Kenny Pickett to work with? I'm at the point right now where I'm open to it. I don't want to shoot yourselves in the foot, but at the same time, he has not been lights out either, too. He's been a decent receiver. I mean, since coming here back in 2020, I mean, his only highest he's got was 873 yards. He hasn't been like a 1,000-yard receiver, but he's still pretty darn good, where he averaged like his first 2 years about over 14 yards per reception. This year, it's at 9.5. And like I said, we already know the targets where he's got 44 targets this year. And so far this year right now, he's also had like about 16 drops up to this point. He's definitely one of the most guys who's had a lot of drops. So he's only got 260 yards, only 1 touchdown at this point, and just being utilized in a lot more jet sweeps. I mean, which of course, like Mike Tomlin feels like they need to change it up a little bit. So let's go ahead and jump into this right now. And also Cam Hayward. Should the Steelers, I mean, if this is brought up again, an NFC team was inquiring, I mean, who would that more likely be? Would that be someone like the Bucks, the Niners? Would it be someone like the Giants? Or even the Bucks right now, too? I mean, or Green Bay. I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and willing to give Cam Hayward the respect that he deserves for this team. But at the same time, too, I mean, he is a guy right now who is set, who's making over $17 million this year. He'll be set to make over $22 million in his final 2 seasons. He's signed for the 2024 season right now. Well, like I said, if it's anywhere like a high second or first round pick, I think you have to listen at this point. Now, again, when we start drafting players going in the future, I mean, even if you get like high value return, it's still hit or miss on these draft picks. But like I said, I think a lot of this has to depend on today's outcome. I think if they win today's game somehow, some way, and if they have like an offer like that, I think, you know what, it's probably safe to say probably turn that down. So I'm going to probably say no for right now. Let's go ahead and get into the keys to the game. I'm only got 2 for you guys for today. So key number 1 is we take care of the ball. Mike Tomlin did say with Bob Papiani on the Mike Tomlin show that he feels his team needs to take care of the ball more. Steelers up to this point have surrendered the ball 12 times, which is fifth in the league, which includes being raped fourth with 9 interceptions. They'll have to fend off the tandem of strong safety, C.J. Gardner Johnson, and right cornerback Darius Slade, who each are tied for the team lead of 3 interceptions. Team number 2 will be time of possession. Eagles are 20th in the league in allowing 33 of 74 third down conversions, which is 29th. Look for Najee Harris and Jalen Warren to be keys because let's be honest, the Steelers right now for this year, they need to do a way better job converting their third down conversions. If they convert those more, it helps control the time of possession. They're ranked 20th as the Steelers have only converted 35 out of 95 attempts for this season, which is definitely pitiful. No pun intended. So again, let's see. Can the Steelers make some history today? Can they survive their season? And for the most part, let's see what happens. For the most part, just want to wish everyone a happy and safe trick or treat right now. Trick or treat. Let's snatch some defeat for today. Anyway, once again, you guys can follow me on social media. You can follow me on Twitter at MetaSteelCGR. Then you can also check me out on Instagram at MetaSteelNation. Definitely a much more tumultuous season this year than any other seasons played out. No doubt about it. But we'll see what they can come up with today. As always, leave it. Don't be trolling. You're rolling. Here we go, sirs. Here we go. I gone.